Hi everyone. In this video what we're going to be talking about is what affects behaviour and what causes it and what doesn't. There are three factors that affect behaviour: genetics, past experience and previous learning, and environment, which is both internal and external. Their genetics is what they're born with. You can't change their genetics. It is their blueprint for what that individual can potentially express and become and do. Like I say, it doesn't mean that the dog is going to necessarily achieve all of that potential, but if the environment allows for it, say for example the dog gets exposed to sheep and it starts to herd, then that genetic trait can be expressed. Past experience and prior learning. Remember that a dog is trying to achieve positive consequences for themselves, not others, at every given moment, and trying to avoid negative consequences. They're always doing a risk assessment so that they potentially will put themselves in a negative experience in order to get ultimately what it is they want, but not if the punishment or risk outweighs the reward. And they're always learning, so the more that they achieve that good reward using that behavior pattern, the more likely they're going to repeat that in the future. And the more times a dog finds a behavior aversive, the more likely they are going to avoid that behavior in the future. And then you've got environment. As I say, the internal and external environment. The internal environment is how you feel and whether you're in pain. So what I'm getting at there is your dog's behavior can change according to how it feels and whether it's in pain. That's why there's so many variables with this. If you've just woken up, for example, if you've just been affected by something that's highly arousing and overstimulating, your brain isn't working brilliantly, or maybe you have got a dog in the perfect frame of mind for learning that can achieve better in that frame of mind than, say, it is affected by something. And pain affects dogs just like it does humans. It can change their whole personality if they're in pain. So when we're assessing behaviour, that has to be taken into consideration. And the external environment is everything around you in that direct environment and the individuals within it, no matter what species. And it's really important to understand, I can't express this enough, like if you change the environment, the behavior will change 100% of the time. And our human ability to understand the environment around us is so much greater than theirs because of our frontal cortex. It's a man-made world that we created and we understand. They don't understand things like footpaths or why cars drive in the middle of the road, not on the sidewalk. They don't understand people living in condensed housing blocks of units. And so our dog's understanding of this world is far less, and so that leaves them far more likely to be exposed to what they might perceive as a change. For us it might have to be a weather shift for us to consider it an environmental change, whereas somebody getting up and moving across the room for a dog is potentially a change in environment, and so we will affect the dog's behavior. Now, it's important to note that behavior always serves a purpose. Remember that, because the dog is not doing it for no reason, and it's never, it just happened. The dog's behavior serves a purpose. If you blow in its eyes, it will blink. If it gets scared and it needs distance, it will either try to avoid or increase the distance by barking and lunging at them. But the dog's behavior is appropriate to the dog. What doesn't cause behavior is these constructs that we come up with, such as, the dog's anxiety caused the behavior, or the dog is fearful. These are descriptions of what the dog is, not what is causing the dog to actually behave in this manner. So, say the dog generally is a fearful dog, that would be a general description of that dog's characteristics. But if the dog is not behaving fearfully or barking and lunging at somebody all the time, and then all of a sudden a hand came into their space and the dog barked and lunged to snap to make the hand go away, we would describe it as the hand coming towards the face caused the behavior, not the fact that it is fearful. So when we're analyzing behavior, this is really important to understand, And this is the kind of thing that we're trying to get through to you when we're in a consult. It is not because the dog is fearful. It is these situations that we must avoid or counter condition or desensitize to in order to create a behavior change. And whenever we are called up for a behavior change, essentially that is what we do as dog trainers, our goal is to recognize what happens to cause the behavior, this unwanted behavior, and then essentially set you up to win. Either introduce that stimulus enough so that it doesn't trigger the same behavior, and then teach it an alternative behavior that we would deem appropriate, or avoid it altogether. It really does depend on the training scenario. What we shouldn't be doing is correcting and punishing the dog for expressing itself and communicating. It is very important to understand that with our pet dogs, 99.9% of the time they did not choose to be in that situation. We are the ones that put them there. And so correcting them for being in a situation, communicating how they feel down to what we did, is not appropriate.